Okay, here we are, Chuck Wilson, New Hope Community Church, connecting the dots. Welcome back. Very interesting. I don't know if you followed this last week, but there was a big earthquake in the Middle East. And here's a title from the Jerusalem Post, which I hope you're reading. Heaven Sent, is Lebanon's earthquake a testament to divine protection? Yes. It says here in the title also, Hezbollah's underground ambitions may now lie buried, turn to ashes before they any chance to harm us. And this is in the Jerusalem Post, talking about what's happening in Tisha B'Av, which is a solemn day, a day of mourning and remembering a lot of the hard things that have happened to Israel over the centuries. But it says here, the day bore witness to what many of us view as a modern day miracle, a testament to divine intervention that could not have come at a more crucial time. Reports confirmed a 5.4 magnitude earthquake that struck Syria and Lebanon, profoundly impacting the region. This was not just any earthquake event. It may have served as an unanticipated yet divine act that thwarted a grave threat against the Jewish nation. Hezbollah has been preparing to launch an attack on Israel on purpose on Tisha B'Av. Many of the group's underground tunnels, teeming with weapons and ammunitions, may have been reduced to rubble by the act of God to protect his children, which could effectively halt Hezbollah's plan before it could materialize. This is in the Jerusalem Post now. It's hard to perceive it as a mere coincidence that the earth shook on the very day Hezbollah had intended to send Israel into mourning once more. With tunnels collapsing and their arsenals buried, what could have been a devastating assault turned into a day of bewildering relief and gratitude. Unbelievable, unbelievable. On that very, very day, Tisha B'Av, just crazy how that worked. So we see God is in total control, but there's another very interesting connection. This is also in the Jerusalem Post. Regional earthquake 5.2 earthquake hits northern central Israel and surrounding countries. And this is interesting because it talks about this earthquake hit central North Israel along with surrounding countries on Monday, Israel media and scientific organizations reported. So even though it stopped the enemy, it also hit Israel. And that's interesting because remember what I talked about earthquakes being a contraction and how they increase in intensity. And is this a contraction? Definitely. All the earthquakes in Israel and worldwide are contractions at this point. We're entering the contraction, end of the contraction stage, getting ready for the next stage of the water breaking. The birth pains were already in the past, already happened already. Now we're in the contractions. But there are going to be earthquakes in Israel, and I believe this is a contraction. Keep an eye on it in Israel, all over the world, but especially in Israel, because it's going to happen. Listen to what the ultimate earthquake in Israel is going to be like. In Revelation 11, in Revelation chapter 11, listen to this. There's going to be two witnesses. God's going to send two witnesses. I believe it's going to be Elijah and Moses, and that's all time for a whole nother talk. If you want to listen to my Revelation sermon on Revelation, you can see why I believe it's these two, but most people do believe it's these two because Elijah never died. He went up in the chariot, and Moses' body was never found. It was kept from corruption from Satan, so we believe that body, God can resurrect that body still. He could resurrect anybody, but especially Moses at this point. And don't forget who appeared on the mount with Jesus, of the Mount of Transfiguration. It was Moses and Elijah. So anyway, two witnesses. This is what's going to happen. There's going to be two witnesses. Verse 3, I will give my power to two witnesses, and they will prophesy for 1,260 days. That's 3.5 years. Dressed in sackcloth. If anyone tries to harm them, fire comes from their mouths and devours their enemies. This is how anyone who wants to harm them must die. These men have power to shut up the sky so that it will not rain during the time they are prophesying, and they have power to turn the waters into blood and to strike the earth with every kind of plague as often as they want. Now, when they have finished their testimony, the beast that comes up from the abyss will attack them and overpower and kill them. Their bodies will lie in the street on the great city, which is figuratively called Sodom and Egypt, where also their Lord was crucified, talking about Jerusalem, obviously. For 3.5 days, men from every people, tribe, language, and nation will gaze on their bodies and refuse them burial, watching TV or their phones, obviously. The inhabitants of the earth will gloat over them and will celebrate by sending each other gifts. A new Christmas day, the death of the two witnesses of God, because these two prophets had tormented those who live on the earth. Everybody who had taken the mark of the beast is being tormented by these two witnesses. Verse 11, but after the 3.5 days, a breath of life from God entered them, and they stood on their feet, and terror struck those who saw them. Then they heard a loud voice from heaven saying to them, come up here. And they went up to heaven in a cloud while their enemies looked on. At that very hour there was a severe earthquake. Verse 13, at that very hour there was a severe earthquake, and 1/10 of the city collapsed. 7,000 people were killed in the earthquake, and the survivors were terrified and gave glory to the God of heaven. This earthquake, after the two witnesses die, is going to be a severe earthquake. It's going to collapse much of Jerusalem. 7,000 people are going to die. It's going to be unbelievable, but it's going to shake people up, spiritually shake them up, wake them up, and that's what's going to happen. So whenever you see a big earthquake in Israel, or anywhere, but especially in Israel, we know that God is preparing for the big one. God is in control. So keep your eyes peeled. Earthquakes, God uses them to fight Israel's enemy, but he's also preparing to wake Israel up with these earthquakes too. We'll see you next time.